The mining station on Kepler 442b had been silent for 3 days when Captain Zara Vex received the distress beacon. Her ship, the Stellar Hammer, cut through the void between star systems, carrying a mixed crew of aliens who had learned to respect human unpredictability over the years. What they found when they arrived would test every assumption they held about their human colleagues. The station floated dead in space, its lights flickering like dying stars. Emergency power kept minimal life support running, but something had torn through the outer hull with claws the size of transport shuttles. Zara's second-in-command, a towering Craxian named Thek, studied the damage patterns with growing unease. "Captain," Thek's voice rumbled through the bridge speakers, "these marks, they match historical records from the Forbidden Zones. The ancient texts speak of creatures that devoured entire colonies." Zara examined the readings on her console. Energy signatures unlike anything in their databases pulsed from within the station. The patterns reminded her of something primordial, something that had slept in the darkness between worlds for millennia. Her human intuition, something her alien crewmates had learned never to ignore, screamed warnings. "Any survivors?" she asked the communications officer, a delicate Etherian whose crystalline fingers danced across holographic controls. "Detecting one life sign in the lower mining complex," came the reply. "Weak, but stable. And Captain, there's something else. The readings suggest the presence of a creature matching descriptions from the oldest galactic archives, the kind our ancestors sealed away for good reason." Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's xenobiologist, had been studying the planet's ancient cave systems when the Terror emerged. The creature that burst from the deepest tunnels stood 20 feet tall, with hide like living obsidian and teeth that could slice through starship armor. Its 6 eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence older than recorded history, and its roar shattered communication equipment across 3 decks. But Marcus wasn't alone when the monster struck. Beside him cowered Rex, a faithful German shepherd who had accompanied him on countless expeditions. The dog had been Marcus's companion for 8 years, a reminder of home among the alien landscapes they explored together. When the creature's massive claws swept toward them, Marcus threw himself over Rex, taking a blow that should have killed them both instantly. The beast had dragged them to its lair deep in the station's bowels, where it kept its prey alive for reasons too terrible to contemplate. Marcus lay broken against the metal walls, his ribs shattered and breathing labored. Rex whined softly beside him, pressing his warm body against his human's injured form. The dog's brown eyes never left Marcus's face, even as the monster's footsteps echoed through the chamber. "Good boy," Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. "Always such a good boy." The creature had been feeding on the other miners, but something about the bond between human and dog seemed to fascinate it. It would approach slowly, studying them with those ancient eyes, then retreat to feast on easier prey. Rex never stopped growling low in his throat, positioning himself between Marcus and the monster, despite being no bigger than one of the creature's claws. When Zara's team arrived at the station, they found corridors painted with scenes from nightmares. The creature had been thorough in its hunting, leaving behind only bones picked clean and metal walls scored by impossible claws. The very air seemed thick with malevolence, as if the monster's presence corrupted everything around it. "The life sign is coming from level 7, reported Chief Engineer Korvac, his blue-scaled hands steady despite the horror surrounding them. "But, Captain, the structural damage down there is extensive. One wrong move and the entire section could collapse." Zara studied the tactical display, her green eyes calculating odds with the cold precision that made humans such effective military leaders. The creature's movements created a maze of destruction, blocking most conventional rescue routes. But humans had never been conventional, something the galaxy was still learning to understand. The beast follows hunting patterns consistent with apex predators from the First Age, observed Science Officer Lyra, her tentacled head swaying as she processed data streams. It keeps prey alive for extended periods, suggesting intelligence far beyond simple animal cunning. Approach will be extremely dangerous. The rescue team descended through the station's twisted corridors, following the faint life sign deeper into the creature's domain. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows that seemed to move independently, and more than once they heard the echo of massive footsteps in the darkness ahead. The monster was hunting, and they were walking directly into its territory. Rex's condition was deteriorating rapidly. The loyal dog had refused to leave Marcus's side, even when the creature offered opportunities for escape. His breathing came in short gasps, and his legs trembled with exhaustion. But his eyes remained alert, watching for any sign that his human might recover enough to move. The monster returned to its lair as the rescue team penetrated the station's lower levels. 20 feet of living nightmare, it moved with surprising grace for something so massive. Its 6 eyes studied the human and dog with obvious intelligence, and when it spoke, the words came in a language older than most civilizations. "Small guardian," the creature rumbled, its voice like grinding stone. "You protect the broken one with such devotion. In my age, I have seen empires fall and stars die, but this bond puzzles me. Why do you not flee when death approaches?" Rex could not understand the words, but he understood the threat. He forced himself to stand despite his exhaustion, placing his body between Marcus and the ancient terror. His growl grew stronger, defiance burning in his brown eyes like a flame that refused to be extinguished. The creature tilted its massive head, studying the small dog with something that might have been respect. In countless eons of existence, it had encountered every form of courage the galaxy possessed. But this simple loyalty, this refusal to abandon a fallen companion, represented something the monster had never experienced. "Fascinating," it whispered, leaning closer. "You would die for one who can no longer protect you. Such foolishness. And yet—" Marcus stirred slightly, his eyes fluttering open to see Rex standing guard above him. Even in his broken state, he managed to reach out with one trembling hand to touch the dog's fur. Rex pressed against his palm, tail wagging weakly at the contact. "Rex," Marcus breathed. "Still here, boy. Still my good dog." The rescue team was getting closer, their progress marked by the creature's growing agitation. It had sensed their approach long before they reached the lower levels, and its ancient mind was calculating whether these new arrivals represented threat or opportunity. The monster had learned caution during its long imprisonment, understanding that some prey fought back with unexpected effectiveness. Zara's voice crackled through the team's communication system as they prepared for the final descent. "Remember, we're dealing with something older than our recorded history. It survived this long by being smarter than anything that's tried to kill it. Stay sharp, stay together, and trust your human instincts. They've gotten us this far." The creature rose to its full height as footsteps echoed in the corridor beyond its lair. Rex's growls intensified, and even Marcus tried to push himself upright despite his injuries. The ancient predator's 6 eyes blazed with anticipation as it prepared to add fresh prey to its collection. But none of them truly understood what was about to unfold. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's tactical brilliance and technological innovation, but they had never witnessed something far more dangerous: a human's willingness to sacrifice everything for those they considered family. And in the depths of that haunted station, Marcus Webb was about to demonstrate why humans had earned their reputation as the galaxy's most unpredictable species. The creature's roar shook the station's superstructure as the rescue team breached the final barrier. Rex's answering bark echoed through the chamber, small but unbroken. And somewhere in the darkness, Marcus Webb began to remember why his species had survived every challenge the universe had thrown at them. The real battle was about to begin. The rescue team found them in a chamber that reeked of death and ancient malevolence. Marcus lay crumpled against the far wall, his body twisted at unnatural angles, while Rex stood over him with the stubborn determination that had kept both of them alive for 3 days. The creature loomed above them both, 20 feet of living nightmare studying its prey with the patience of something that had existed since the galaxy was young. Sergeant Elena Vasquez was the first through the breach. Her rifle trained on the monster before her boots touched the deck plates. Behind her came the rest of the team. Thek with his heavy plasma cannon, Engineer Korvac clutching a portable shield generator, and Medical Officer Senna with her emergency kit. But it was Elena who truly understood what she was seeing. A human was down, a dog was protecting him, and something ancient and terrible stood between them and rescue. "Holy shit," Elena breathed, her finger tightening on the trigger. "Marcus, can you hear me?" The creature's 6 eyes shifted to study the newcomers with obvious intelligence. When it spoke, its voice rumbled through the chamber like grinding bedrock, using the galactic common tongue with careful precision. "More small ones come to feed the hunger," it said, flexing claws the size of sword blades. "You arrive just as your broken companion begins to understand his fate. How convenient." Rex's growl deepened at the monster's words, even though exhaustion made his legs tremble. The German shepherd had lost weight during their captivity, his ribs showing through his thick coat, but his brown eyes burned with undiminished loyalty. He pressed closer to Marcus, who stirred weakly at the sound of familiar voices. "Elena?" Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Don't let it hurt Rex. Please." The creature laughed, a sound like avalanches in dead star systems. "The small guardian refuses to abandon the broken one, even when death offers him freedom. Such devotion puzzles me. In my long existence, I have consumed the bravest warriors of 1,000 species, yet none showed such pointless loyalty." Elena's tactical mind was already working, calculating angles and distances while her rifle tracked the monster's massive head. The creature stood nearly 20 feet tall, its obsidian hide scarred by eons of battle. Ancient symbols covered its arms and chest, glowing faintly with energy that predated most galactic civilizations. This thing had been killing since before humans had developed spaceflight. But Elena Vasquez had grown up on the frontier worlds, where humans learned early that size and age meant nothing compared to determination. She had seen colonists fight off raiders with nothing but mining tools and pure stubbornness. She had watched farmers stand against corporate armies to protect their land, and she had learned that humans possessed something most aliens never truly understood: the willingness to die for their pack. "Thek," she said quietly, never taking her eyes off the creature. "Can your cannon punch through that hide?" The Craxian studied his weapon's power readings with professional calm. "Uncertain, Sergeant. The energy signatures suggest armor equivalent to battleship plating. At this range, I might wound it, but..." "But wounding it won't help Marcus and Rex," Elena finished. "Korvac, can you get a shield up between them and the monster?" The engineer shook his blue-scaled head. "The portable generator cannot maintain a barrier large enough to contain that creature, and the energy feedback would likely collapse this entire section of the station." Dr. Senna was already moving toward Marcus with her medical kit, but the creature's casual gesture sent her skidding backward across the metal deck. The monster's strength was absolute, and it clearly had no intention of releasing its prey. "You speak of tactics and weapons," the creature rumbled, amused by their efforts. "But you do not understand what you face. I am Vorthak the Devourer, last of the Primarch class. I have consumed the champions of dead empires and drunk the blood of extinct species. Your small weapons cannot harm me." Rex barked once, sharp and defiant, drawing the monster's attention back to him. The dog's stance never wavered, despite his obvious exhaustion. He had positioned himself perfectly to protect Marcus's broken body, and even the ancient predator seemed impressed by his unwavering courage. "This small one interests me more than your threats," Vorthak continued, leaning closer to study Rex with obvious fascination. "He knows he cannot defeat me, yet he refuses to yield. Such behavior defies logic." Marcus struggled to lift his head, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Because you don't understand loyalty," he gasped. "Rex isn't protecting me because he thinks he can win. He's protecting me because that's what family does." The word family seemed to strike something deep in Vorthak's ancient consciousness. The creature reared back slightly, its 6 eyes narrowing as it processed concepts that predated its own awakening. In all its eons of existence, it had encountered fear, rage, desperation, and cunning. But this simple devotion between species represented something outside its experience. Elena saw her opening. Not a tactical advantage, but something far more dangerous to an ancient predator. A chance to teach it about humanity. "You want to understand loyalty?" she said, lowering her rifle slightly. "Then let me show you what humans call pack bonding." She stepped forward, ignoring the warnings from her team. Vorthak's massive head swiveled to track her movement, curious about this small creature that dared approach without weapons raised. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs, but her voice remained steady. "See? You've got this all wrong," she continued, moving closer to Marcus and Rex. "You think Rex is being stupid, staying here to die with Marcus, but that's not what's happening. Rex isn't choosing to die. He's choosing to live as what he is, part of a pack, and humans take that seriously." Vorthak's claws scraped against the metal floor as he shifted position. "Explain this pack bonding you speak of. I have observed the hunting behaviors of countless species, but none match what I see here." Elena knelt beside Rex, placing one hand gently on the dog's head. Rex's tail wagged weakly at her touch, but his eyes never left the monster. Marcus managed a small smile at seeing his faithful companion receive comfort from another human. "When humans bond with something, we don't think about cost-benefit analysis," Elena said, scratching behind Rex's ears. "We don't calculate odds or survival percentages. We just know that this creature is ours, and we are theirs. And that bond doesn't break just because things get dangerous." She stood slowly, her hand moving to the grenade belt at her waist. Vorthak watched with growing interest, sensing that something significant was about to happen. "Marcus bonded with Rex 8 years ago," Elena continued, her fingers closing around a thermal detonator. "Rex bonded back. When you threatened one of them, you threatened both of them. And when you threaten a human's pack—" She smiled, and something in that expression made even the ancient predator pause. "Well, that's when you meet the other side of human nature." The thermal detonator's activation light blinked red in her palm. Vorthak's 6 eyes widened as he recognized the weapon and calculated its destructive potential. At this range, the explosion would collapse the entire chamber, killing everyone present, including Elena herself. "You would die to save these two?" Vorthak asked, genuine confusion creeping into his ancient voice. "Your pack bond extends even to creatures you have just met?" "Rex protected Marcus for 3 days against impossible odds," Elena replied, the detonator's timer counting down. "Marcus threw himself in front of claws that should have killed him to protect his dog. You want to know about pack bonding? It means I'll blow this whole station to hell before I let you hurt them." Thek had seen humans make impossible decisions before, but even he was awed by Elena's absolute certainty. The sergeant stood calmly in the face of certain death, her expression peaceful despite the chaos around her. This was human pack bonding in its purest form, the willingness to sacrifice everything for those claimed as family. Vorthak stared at the small human holding her species' destruction as casually as a flower. In countless eons of existence, he had never encountered prey that would choose mutual annihilation over surrender. The concept challenged everything he understood about survival instincts and rational behavior. "You are all insane," he said finally, but there was respect in his voice. "Maybe," Elena agreed, her thumb hovering over the detonator's trigger. "But we're insane together. That's what makes us human." Marcus struggled to speak, his voice gaining strength from somewhere deep inside. "Rex isn't just a dog. He's pack. He's family. And nobody hurts our family." The words hung in the air between them, carrying weight that transcended species and understanding. Even Vorthak, ancient beyond measure, found himself reconsidering everything he thought he knew about the small creatures that had somehow conquered half the galaxy. Rex barked once more, soft and trusting, pressing against Marcus's broken hand. And in that simple gesture, the fate of everyone in the chamber balanced on the edge of a blade. The thermal detonator's countdown reached 10 seconds when something unprecedented happened. Vorthak the Devourer, terror of ancient civilizations, took a step backward. For the first time in eons, the Primarch predator experienced something beyond hunger or hunting instinct. The small human stood before him with absolute resolve, ready to die rather than abandon her pack members. The broken scientist clutched his faithful companion even as his life ebbed away, and the dog, exhausted and outmatched beyond measure, continued to growl defiance at odds that should have crushed his spirit entirely. "Stop," Vorthak said, his voice losing its predatory edge. "Deactivate your weapon." Elena's thumb paused over the trigger. "Give me one reason why I shouldn't turn you into cosmic dust." The ancient creature studied her with all 6 eyes, processing concepts that challenged everything he had learned during his long existence. When he spoke again, his words carried the weight of revelation. "Because I begin to understand what you call pack bonding," he said slowly, "and I find myself curious about creatures who would choose death over abandonment." Marcus coughed, blood speckling his lips, but managed to focus on Vorthak's massive form. "You've been alone so long, you forgot what connection feels like," he whispered. Rex pressed closer, sensing his human's pain. "That's why you keep prey alive. You're trying to understand something you lost." Vorthak's obsidian hide rippled with bioluminescent patterns that hadn't activated in millennia. Ancient emotions, long buried beneath predatory instincts, began stirring in his massive consciousness. He remembered a time before the hunger, before the endless hunting, when his species had known bonds that transcended individual survival. "My people were not always monsters," he admitted, his voice dropping to barely audible levels. "We too knew loyalty, sacrifice, connection. But when the galaxy changed, when the old gods fell silent, we adapted by becoming what you see now. I am the last because I forgot everything else." Dr. Senna, who had been quietly monitoring Marcus's vital signs, spoke up with the calm authority of a medical professional. "His internal injuries are severe. Without immediate treatment, he won't survive the next hour. But the trauma to his rib cage and lungs requires surgical facilities we don't have here." Elena's grip on the detonator remained steady, but she could see the calculation in Vorthak's ancient eyes. Something was shifting in the creature's thinking, and she sensed an opportunity that went beyond mere survival. "You want to understand pack bonding?" she asked. "Then help us save Marcus. Show us that ancient wisdom can remember what connection really means." Vorthak's massive head tilted, studying the injured human with new perspective. "I have healing abilities that predate your medical science, but they require cooperation, trust. concepts I had believed extinct. Rex whined softly, sensing the change in atmosphere. His brown eyes moved between his beloved human and the creature that had held them prisoner. Some instinct told him that the monster was no longer hunting, though he remained ready to defend Marcus with his last breath. "What kind of cooperation?" Thek asked, his plasma cannon still trained on Vorthak, but his finger relaxed on the trigger. The ancient predator extended one massive claw, but instead of threatening, he traced complex patterns in the air above Marcus's broken form. Energy began gathering around his talons, glowing with the same bioluminescence that covered his hide. "My species possess the ability to share life force between individuals," Vorthak explained, "but it requires willing participation from all involved. The injured one must accept my help. The guardian creature must trust me not to harm his pack member. And the protectors," his 6 eyes fixed on Elena, "must believe that an ancient monster can choose redemption over hunger." Elena felt the weight of decision settling on her shoulders. Everything about human tactical training screamed warnings about trusting ancient predators. But something deeper, the same instinct that had driven her species to bond with wolves thousands of years ago, whispered that Vorthak's offer was genuine. "Marcus," she said softly, "it's your choice. Can you trust him?" Marcus's eyes fluttered open, focusing with effort on Vorthak's towering form. Rex pressed against his chest, offering what comfort he could. The scientist's mind, even clouded by pain and blood loss, processed the impossible situation with scholarly curiosity. "In all my xenobiological studies," Marcus whispered, "I learned that evolution favors cooperation over predation. If you're truly the last of your kind—" He coughed, specks of blood hitting Rex's fur. "Then maybe loneliness is a worse death than whatever you've survived." Vorthak's bioluminescent patterns pulsed brighter, and for a moment, the ancient creature looked less like a monster and more like a being carrying the weight of eons in solitude. "Loneliness," he repeated. "Yes, that is the hunger I have truly been feeding." Elena deactivated the thermal detonator, but kept it ready in her palm. "If you hurt them, if I betray this trust," Vorthak interrupted, "then I deserve whatever destruction you can bring." He knelt beside Marcus and Rex, his massive form dwarfing them both. "Small guardian, you have shown courage beyond your size. Will you permit me to attempt healing your pack leader?" Rex studied the ancient creature with intelligent brown eyes. Something in Vorthak's posture had changed, becoming less threatening and more apologetic. The dog's tail wagged once, tentatively, and he stepped aside to allow the creature access to Marcus. "Good boy," Marcus breathed, managing a weak smile. "Always trust your instincts, Rex." Vorthak placed his massive claws gently on either side of Marcus's torso, careful not to puncture skin with talon points that could slice through armor plating. The bioluminescent patterns on his hide began pulsing in complex rhythms, and energy flowed from his ancient form into the broken human. "This will be intense," Vorthak warned. "I am sharing life force accumulated over millennia. Your human physiology may react unpredictably." Light erupted around Marcus's body, but instead of the harsh glare of medical equipment, this energy felt warm and organic. His broken ribs began knitting together with audible pops, and his punctured lung reinflated as tissue regenerated at impossible speeds. Rex barked excitedly, sensing his human's pain receding. But the healing came at a cost. Vorthak's massive frame began shrinking as he transferred his accumulated life energy. The creature that had stood 20 feet tall diminished to 18 feet, then 15, as centuries of stored vitality flowed into Marcus's damaged body. "Vorthak," Elena said, alarmed by the transformation, "you're killing yourself to save him." The ancient being's voice remained steady despite his diminishing size. This is what pack bonding means, is it not? Sacrifice for those we choose to protect? Marcus gasped as his injuries healed completely, his breathing returning to normal for the first time in days. Rex immediately climbed onto his chest, tail wagging frantically as he licked his human's face. The reunion between man and dog brought tears to Elena's eyes, reminding her why humanity had spread across the galaxy in the first place. "I understand now," Vorthak said, his form stabilizing at roughly 12 feet tall. Still imposing, but no longer the titanic monster that had terrorized the station. "Connection is not weakness. Isolation is not strength. I have spent eons feeding the wrong hunger." Marcus sat up slowly. Rex still pressed against him and looked at the transformed creature with wonder. "You gave up centuries of life to save someone you barely know. That's not monster behavior, Vorthak. That's what we call humanity." The ancient being's 6 eyes widened at the term. "Humanity? But I am not of your species." "Humanity isn't about species," Elena said, finally lowering her weapon completely. "It's about choosing to be better than your worst instincts. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. It's about deciding that connection matters more than survival." Vorthak studied his reduced claws, noting how the ancient symbols on his hide had changed from aggressive warnings to something that looked almost protective. "Then perhaps there is hope for a monster seeking redemption." Rex barked once, sharp and friendly, then trotted over to Vorthak's massive foot. The dog sniffed cautiously, then wagged his tail and looked back at Marcus as if asking permission. Marcus nodded, and Rex pressed against the ancient creature's ankle in a gesture of acceptance. "Pack bonding," Marcus said, scratching behind Rex's ears. "It's not about species or size or how long you've existed. It's about choosing to care more about others than yourself." Thek lowered his plasma cannon completely, his warrior's instincts recognizing that the creature before them was no longer a threat. "The galaxy will have difficulty believing this transformation." "The galaxy has difficulty believing most things humans do," Elena replied with a grin. "But they learn to adapt eventually." Vorthak carefully extended one reduced claw toward Rex, who sniffed it thoroughly before allowing the ancient being to gently scratch his head. The sight of the reformed monster petting the faithful dog, while Marcus watched with approval, struck everyone present as profoundly right. "I have much to atone for," Vorthak said quietly. "Civilizations destroyed, lives consumed, eons spent in purposeless hunting. But perhaps I can learn to protect rather than prey." Dr. Senna approached with her medical scanner, confirming that Marcus's injuries had healed completely. "Your biology is fascinating," she told Vorthak. "That healing ability could revolutionize medical science if you were willing to help others." The ancient creature looked at Marcus, Rex, and Elena in turn. "These 3 have shown me that redemption is possible even for monsters. If my abilities can heal rather than harm, then perhaps my existence can serve a worthy purpose." Marcus stood slowly, Rex immediately positioning himself at his side. "The galaxy is full of injured people and broken bonds," he said. "If you're serious about redemption, there's no shortage of good you could do." "But first," Elena added with a smile, "you need to learn proper pack protocols. Rule 1, nobody touches Rex without Marcus's permission. Rule 2, when someone offers you friendship, you take it seriously. Rule 3, family protects family no matter what." Vorthak's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in what might have been laughter. "These rules seem far more complex than hunting prey." "The best things usually are," Marcus replied, one hand resting on Rex's head while the other gestured toward the reformed monster. "But that's what makes them worth protecting." As they prepared to leave the haunted mining station, Rex trotted between Marcus and Vorthak, tail wagging as if he had somehow engineered this entire transformation through simple canine wisdom. The ancient terror had become a guardian, the broken human had been healed, and the faithful dog had gained a protector larger than any threat the galaxy could offer. Elena watched them walk together toward the rescue shuttle and shook her head in amazement. Leave it to a human and his dog to tame a Primarch predator with nothing but pack bonding. Behind them, the mining station's emergency lights flickered one last time before dying completely. But ahead lay possibilities none of them had imagined when they first responded to that desperate distress beacon. Sometimes the best rescues saved more than just the people in immediate danger. Sometimes they saved ancient souls that had forgotten what it meant to love.